I came home to drop off my father's medicine. The house was too quiet. My adopted sister was crying. My brother said, "Don't start." Then he reached for her hand. That was the moment my stomach dropped, because nothing about it looked innocent. Not the way Vera jerked away from him like she had been caught. Not the way Marcus looked annoyed instead of embarrassed. I said, "What is this?" Marcus didn't ask what I meant. He just said, "Don't start." And that was worse. Because innocent people say, "What are you talking about?" They don't say, "Don't start." Vera sat on the couch with her sleeves pulled over her hands. Her face was pale, and tears were already sliding down her cheeks. She didn't make a sound. She just stared at the carpet like if she looked at me, something would shatter. I asked again, slower this time. "What is this?" Marcus stood up, but he didn't move away from her. He stepped closer. Like he was shielding her from me. Like I was some stranger who had walked in to hurt her. "We're adults," he said. "And before you say anything stupid, we're not blood related." I swear my whole body went cold. Vera is my sister. I know people will argue about that. My family has been arguing about it for weeks. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone has a technicality. Everyone wants to act like there is some clean line that makes this less wrong. But Vera came into our family when she was 6. I was 10. She came with 2 trash bags of clothes, a purple backpack, and this scared little look that made my mother cry in the hallway after bedtime. She flinched when doors closed too loudly. She hid snacks in her pillowcase. She asked before touching anything, even the remote. My mother knelt in front of her the first night and said, "You don't have to earn your place here." And I believed that. We all did. Or at least I thought we did. She lost baby teeth in that house. She learned how to ride a bike in our driveway. She had birthday candles, school pictures, matching pajamas. So when Marcus stood there and said, "We're not blood related," it felt like he had taken her whole childhood and crossed it out with one sentence. I said, "She is your sister." He rolled his eyes. "She's adopted." I don't think I have ever hated a sentence more. Vera flinched when he said it. It was small, but I saw it. Her shoulders pulled in. Her eyes dropped lower. And Marcus either didn't notice or didn't care. I looked at her and asked, "Is this what you think too?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her hands were shaking. "It just happened," she whispered. That answer made my chest hurt. Not because it explained anything, but because it explained nothing. I said, "Vera, do you feel pressured?" Marcus snapped, "Do not do that." I turned to him. "Do what?" "Act like she can't make choices for herself. She's not a child." "I know she's not a child." "No, you don't," he said. "You all still treat her like some damaged little kid you rescued." That hit harder than I wanted it to, because there was just enough truth in it to make me hesitate. Vera had always hated being pitted. She hated being watched too closely. But this was not pity. This was panic. I asked her again, "Can you tell me honestly that this is what you want?" She didn't answer. Marcus said, "She already told you. We're together." Together. The word sat there between us like something rotten. I put the medicine on the side table because my hands were starting to shake. Then I left. I didn't slam the door. I didn't scream. I just walked out because I knew if I stayed, I would say something I couldn't take back. For 2 days, I told no one. That sounds terrible, and maybe it is. But I couldn't make my mouth form the words. I couldn't call my mother and say, "Your son and your daughter are together." I couldn't call my father and destroy him while he was already dealing with his health. I barely slept. I went to work and acted normal while my brain kept replaying Marcus saying, "She's adopted." I kept thinking of Vera at 7 years old crawling into my bed during thunderstorms because she was scared of the dark. Then my mother called. She was crying so hard I couldn't understand her at first. I heard my father's voice in the background, low and angry, and something heavy scraping across the kitchen floor. I said, "Mom, slow down." "What happened?" She said, "Did you know?" My stomach sank. I didn't answer fast enough. She made this broken sound and said, "Jean, did you know?" I said, "I walked in on something 2 nights ago." She started sobbing. Apparently Marcus and Vera decided to tell the truth before I could. But they didn't tell it like a family crisis. They told it like a brave confession. Marcus said they had developed feelings. He said they had fought it. He said they didn't want to live a lie anymore. My mother asked Vera if Marcus had talked her into it. Marcus got angry and said everyone was insulting Vera by acting like she had no mind of her own. Vera sat beside him, holding his hand, barely speaking. My father told Marcus to get out. Marcus said, "If I leave, Vera comes with me." My father said, "Vera is my daughter. She doesn't go anywhere because you tell her to." Marcus laughed and said, "Then stop treating us like criminals." My mother said, "You are her brother." And Marcus said, "Only because you people decided to call it that." That was when my father told him to leave before he did something he'd regret. Vera left with Marcus. When I got to the house, my father was sitting at the kitchen table, silent. His face looked gray. My mother was on the floor beside a box of old photo albums, holding one open in her lap. She kept turning pages with trembling fingers. Vera missing her 2 front teeth. Vera in a pink winter coat. Vera asleep on my shoulder during a road trip. Vera holding a cake while my mother stood behind her, smiling like she had won the lottery. My mother tapped one picture and whispered, "This is my baby." Then she flipped to another one. "This is my baby too." I sat beside her, and for the first time since I was a kid, I didn't know how to comfort my own mother. My father finally spoke. "He doesn't come back here," he said. His voice was flat. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just done. My mother looked at him like he had slapped her. "Raymond," she said. He shook his head. "Not while he's doing this. Not while he's telling that girl she isn't ours." That girl. He didn't mean it coldly. I know he didn't. But even the way we spoke started changing after that. Everyone was scared of saying the wrong word. Daughter. Adopted. Sister. Adult. Family. Every word felt loaded. The next week was awful. Marcus kept texting everyone. Long messages about judgment, fake love, and how families only support you when you follow their rules. He posted quotes online about forbidden love, which made me want to throw my phone across the room. He acted like he and Vera were starring in some tragic romance instead of blowing up the family that raised both of them. Vera barely responded to anyone unless Marcus was included. My mother texted her every morning. Simple things. "I love you. Come home if you need to. You don't have to explain anything today." Most of the messages stayed unread. My father changed the locks after Marcus showed up close to midnight, banging on the porch door and yelling that he wanted Vera's childhood things. Our neighbor Walter saw the whole thing. By the next morning, half the street probably knew something had happened. My mother stopped going to church. She said she was tired. But I knew the truth. People were asking questions. Her friend Helen called twice and left messages that sounded caring on the surface, but had that sharp little edge people get when they want details. My mother deleted both messages and cried in the laundry room. The family split after that. My Aunt Florence said we had to be careful. She said if we pushed Vera too hard, she might cling to Marcus even tighter. She reminded us that Vera had abandonment issues long before she came to us, and Marcus knew exactly how to make himself seem like the only safe person in the room. My cousin Beverly said something different. She said, "I know everyone is upset, but they're not biologically related." I stared at her like she had grown a second face. She held up her hands and said, "I'm not saying I like it. I'm saying legally, it's not the same." I said, "I don't care what the legal category is." "But is it wrong because they grew up together?" she asked, "or because you don't really see Vera as adopted?" That question has lived in my head ever since. Because to me, accepting this would mean admitting Vera was never fully ours. It would mean she was a daughter only when it was cute. A sister only when it was convenient. Family until someone wanted to turn her into something else. I told Beverly that. She said, "That's not what I meant." I said, "Maybe not. But that's what it sounds like." I left before I said anything worse. The hardest part was not knowing what Vera was thinking. People keep asking me if I believe she loves Marcus. I don't know. Maybe she does. Maybe she thinks she does. Maybe that makes me sound condescending, but I don't know how else to say it. Vera has always been gentle in a way that made people underestimate her. She is not stupid. She is not helpless. She has a job, pays her bills when she can, and has survived more than most people know. But she also hates being left. She hates conflict. She will fold herself into whatever shape keeps someone from walking away. Marcus knows that. And Marcus has always been charming when he wants something. That's the part people outside the family don't understand. Marcus can be funny. He can be protective. He can make you feel like he is the only one who gets you. But when he feels judged, he turns cruel. He finds the softest part of you and presses there. After Vera's breakup with Philip, she moved back into my parents' house because she was broke and embarrassed. Philip hadn't been abusive or anything dramatic. He was just selfish, unreliable, and good at making Vera feel like she asked for too much. When it ended, she was humiliated. She kept saying she was tired of being someone people left behind. Marcus was already living in the basement then, supposedly saving money. At first, their closeness looked normal. They cooked late dinners, watched old shows, sent each other stupid videos. Sometimes I was even grateful. I thought, okay, at least she has someone there when I can't be. Then it shifted. At Sunday dinner, they sat too close. When Vera laughed, Marcus stared too long. If someone asked if she was dating again, he got stiff and quiet. Once Florence joked, "Careful, Marcus, you're acting like her bodyguard." Vera turned red. Marcus snapped, "Can you not be weird?" And somehow, him saying that made it weird. I ignored my gut because what kind of person wants to believe something like that? You don't just accuse your brother and sister of crossing lines. You convince yourself you're being paranoid. You tell yourself grief and stress and late nights are making you see things. Until you walk in with your father's medicine and realize your gut was trying to protect you. A few days after everything exploded, Vera finally texted me. Not in the family group chat. Not through Marcus. Just me. Can we meet? I stared at the message for almost 10 minutes before replying. Yes. Anywhere you want. She chose a small coffee shop downtown, far enough from our parents' neighborhood that no one would recognize us. I got there early and sat in the back. My hands were sweating so badly I kept wiping them on my jeans. When Vera walked in, she looked exhausted. No makeup. Hair pulled back. Oversized hoodie. She looked like herself and not herself at the same time. She sat across from me and said, "If you're going to yell, I'll leave." "I'm not going to yell." "You say that now." "I mean it." She nodded but didn't look convinced. For a minute, neither of us spoke. The barista called out an order. A chair scraped near the window. Some guy laughed too loudly at his phone. Life kept happening around us, which felt insulting. I said, "I love you." Her face crumpled immediately. I kept going before I lost my nerve. "I love you. Mom loves you. Dad loves you. You are my sister. Nothing about this changes that for me." She wiped under her eyes with her sleeve. I said, "But I can't pretend I'm okay with what's happening." Her shoulders went tight. "I knew it," she said. "Vera." "No, I knew you'd do this. You act nice for 2 seconds, then you judge me." "I'm not judging you." "Yes, you are. I'm scared for you." She laughed once, but it had no humor in it. "That's worse." I took a breath. "Can I ask you something and you don't have to answer right away?" She looked at the table. I said, "Do you feel like you can leave him if you want to?" Her head snapped up. "I don't want to." "That's not what I asked." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. That silence told me more than any answer could have. She stared into her coffee for a long time. Then she said, very quietly, "You don't understand. Marcus is the only one who doesn't make me feel like I'm still the adopted kid." I felt something inside me crack. Because Marcus was the one using that word like a loophole. Marcus was the one saying she wasn't really our sister when it helped him. Marcus was the one turning the most painful part of her life into permission. I said, "Vera, he calls you adopted to defend this." She flinched. I said it softer. "He is using the exact wound you're trying to heal." She stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. "You don't get to tell me what I feel," she said. "I'm not trying to." "Yes, you are. All of you are." Then she left. I sat there for a while after, staring at the coffee she barely touched. I wanted to chase her. I wanted to grab her and say, "Please, please, please, wake up." But she was right about one thing. I could not force her to see what I saw. After that, Marcus got worse. He texted me from a new number after I blocked him. "You always hated that Vera and I were closer." I deleted it. Then another came. "You liked being the real daughter." That one made me sick. Not because it was true. It wasn't. But because I knew exactly who that message was really for. He wasn't just trying to hurt me. He was building a story where everyone had secretly rejected Vera, and only he had loved her correctly. I sent one reply before blocking that number too. "Stop using her adoption to justify yourself." He didn't answer after that. Not directly. Instead, he posted online about toxic families, judgment, and people who only love you when they own you. My mother saw one of the posts because Helen's daughter sent it to someone, who sent it to someone else, until it made its way back to us like gossip always does. My mother read it at the kitchen table and quietly closed her laptop. Then she went upstairs and didn't come down for dinner. My father stayed angry because anger was easier than grief. He fixed things around the house that were not broken. Tightened cabinet handles. Replaced porch lights. Reorganized the garage. Anything to keep his hands busy. One night, I found him in the living room staring at an old framed photo. It was from a beach trip when Vera was maybe 8. She was sitting on Marcus's shoulders, laughing with her mouth wide open. I was next to them, sunburned and annoyed because I hated sand. My father didn't look away from the picture. He said, "Was I blind?" I sat beside him. "No. I raised him." "I know. I raised him to protect her." His voice broke on that last word. I didn't know what to say. Because that was the grief no one talks about. It was not just disgust. It was betrayal of every role we thought we understood. Brother. Sister. Daughter. Son. Home. Safety. All of it had been rearranged, and Marcus wanted us to clap because he called it love. 2 weeks later, Vera came to my apartment. She texted first. "Can I come over without everyone yelling?" I answered right away. "Yes. No yelling." When she knocked, I almost cried before I opened the door. She stood there with a small duffel bag, but not enough for a permanent move. Her eyes were red. She looked over her shoulder before stepping inside. I didn't ask if she had left him. I wanted to. My whole body wanted to. But I remembered what Florence said. If we pushed too hard, she would run back to the only person telling her this was romance and not chaos. So I just said, "Do you want tea?" She nodded. We sat on my couch in silence. The same couch she had slept on after her breakup with Philip, back when this all still seemed like ordinary heartbreak. After a while, she said, he gets mad when I talk to you. I kept my voice even. What does he say? That you'll twist things. And do you think I will? She stared at her hands. I don't know. That hurt, but I swallowed it. She said, he says everyone is trying to shame me back into being the damaged little girl. I said, I don't think you're damaged. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and her face collapsed. I feel damaged, she whispered. I moved closer, but not too close. She said, I wanted someone to choose me and not feel sorry for me. I said, Vera, wanting to be chosen doesn't make you wrong. She cried then. Quietly at first, then harder. She covered her face with both hands like she was embarrassed by the sound of it. I didn't give a speech. I didn't tell her she was making a mistake. I just sat beside her until she leaned into me. For the first time in weeks, she felt like my sister again. Not because I owned her. Not because I decided who she was. But because she let me love her without turning it into an argument. She stayed for 2 hours. Before she left, I asked, are you safe? She paused at the door. Then she said, I think so. I said, that's not the same as yes. She didn't answer. But the next morning, she texted my mother. I'm okay. I need time. Please don't hate me. My mother sent back, I could never hate you. That was the first small crack in the wall. The next one came 3 days later, when Vera asked my father if she could pick up some clothes while Marcus was at work. My father said yes. He also said Marcus was not welcome with her. She came alone. My mother made soup, because apparently mothers will make soup even when the world is ending. Vera sat at the kitchen table and barely ate, but she stayed. My father didn't lecture her. He didn't ask questions. He just put a box of her things by the door and said, your room is still your room. Vera started crying. My father walked out to the garage, but I saw his eyes before he turned away. After that, things did not magically fix themselves. I don't want to pretend they did. Vera went back to Marcus that night. She still defended him sometimes. She still said we didn't understand. Marcus still posted dramatic garbage online. My mother still cried in private. My father still refused to say Marcus's name unless he had to. But Vera started coming by alone. Once for laundry. Once for dinner. Once just to sit in my apartment and watch TV without talking. Each visit felt like a thread tied back to us. Then came the night Marcus showed up at my place. I didn't open the door. He knocked for 10 minutes, then called me from another number. I answered because I was angry and stupid. He said, stop trying to turn her against me. I said, I'm not doing anything. She comes here because she wants to. She's confused. I almost laughed. That's rich. His voice dropped. You don't know what she says about you. That old Marcus. Cruel when cornered. Always reaching for the soft spot. I said, you mean the things you tell her to say? He went quiet. Then he said, you're going to lose her. I said, maybe. But if loving her means telling the truth, then I'll take that risk. He hung up. The next day, Vera came over with a bruise-colored sadness around her eyes. Not a physical bruise. Just exhaustion. She looked like someone who had spent all night being talked in circles. She said, he told me you think I'm disgusting. I felt my anger rise, but I kept it down. I don't think that. He said Mom and Dad do. They don't. He said if I go back, everyone will always look at me like I'm dirty. I stood there in my small kitchen, holding a mug I forgot to put down, and I realized how carefully Marcus had built the cage. Not with locks. Not with threats. With shame. I said, you can come back and be embarrassed. You can come back and be angry. You can come back and not talk about it. You can come back and need therapy and space and time. But you can come back. She cried again, but this time she didn't leave right away. 2 days later, she packed more clothes from Marcus's apartment. She didn't move back in with my parents. Not yet. She said the house felt too heavy. Too many memories. Too much guilt. So she stayed with me. I made one rule. Marcus could not come inside. She agreed. The first week was tense. She slept badly. She snapped at me over small things. She cried in the shower. She blocked Marcus, then unblocked him, then blocked him again. My mother wanted to come over every day, and I had to gently tell her that love could still feel like pressure. My father dropped off groceries without coming upstairs. He left them by my door and texted, for both of you. Vera cried when she saw the bags. There was no big dramatic revenge. No courtroom. No police. No shocking confession. Just slow, ugly consequences. Marcus lost the version of the story where he was the misunderstood hero. People noticed Vera wasn't with him anymore. The dramatic posts stopped working when she wasn't standing beside him. My father refused to let him come to the house. My mother stopped answering his messages when he insulted Vera. And me? I stopped arguing with people who wanted to reduce my sister to biology. Beverly called once and said, I guess you were right. I said I didn't want to be right. Because I didn't. I wanted my brother to just be immature. I wanted Vera to just be confused. I wanted this to be a nightmare we could wake up from and laugh about years later as some horrible misunderstanding. But there are some things a family does not return from unchanged. Vera is in therapy now. She asked me not to share details, so I won't. She is not suddenly okay. She still has moments where she defends Marcus, then hates herself for it. I keep telling her healing is not a straight line, even though I hate how cheesy that sounds. My mother went back to church once, then left early because someone asked too many questions. My father is still quieter than before. He and Vera had one conversation in the garage that neither of them told me much about, but afterwards she came upstairs crying and said, "Dad said I'm still his daughter." That mattered more than anything I could have said. As for Marcus, I have not spoken to him in almost a month. He sent one final message from an unknown number. "You destroyed my family." I read it twice. Then I deleted it. Because that is the difference between us, I think. He thinks family is something you can reshape whenever it benefits you. Sister when it sounds wholesome. Adopted when it becomes inconvenient. Love when it helps him dodge disgust. Judgment when anyone refuses to clap. But Vera was not a loophole. She was not a technicality. She was not some girl who happened to grow up in our house. She was the little kid who learned to ride a bike in our driveway. She was the teenager who stole my sweaters and cried when I moved out. She was the person my mother called baby and my father still made soup for even when his heart was broken. She was and is my sister. I don't know what happens next. Maybe Marcus will eventually understand what he did. Maybe he won't. Maybe Vera will forgive herself before any of us fully know how to talk about it. Maybe my family will sit around the same table again one day, not like before, but in some new, bruised way. The calm victory is that Vera is asleep in my guest room right now. Her phone is off. My mother knows where she is. My father dropped off groceries again this morning and included her favorite cereal. It is not a clean ending. It is not the kind where everyone gets what they deserve in one satisfying scene. It is just a small, quiet piece of safety after weeks of chaos. And maybe that has to be enough for now. But I still keep wondering if I handled it right. I still wonder if refusing to accept their relationship pushed her deeper into his arms before it helped her leave. I still wonder if there was a kinder way to say the truth without making her feel judged. So am I wrong for refusing to accept my brother's relationship with my adopted sister, even though they were both adults and not biologically related?